One of the hardest parts about ankylosing spondylitis is you desperately want to stretch, you want to loosen up the body, you want to get stronger, but some positions can be really challenging. For me, when I was first diagnosed, a lot of these traditional stretches were really challenging for me. The hamstrings were so tight, the low back was aggravated, traditional stretches on the ground. All this did for me was make joint pain worse, and in the beginning, all I tried to do was force it. I tried to force a stretch because I was so worried about losing my mobility, losing my range of motion, so I would force these stretches because I thought the more I force it, the more it's going to loosen up, the more it's going to feel better over time, but that was the wrong thought, and I realized that you have to find your sweet spot to work on flexibility, to work on strength while protecting the joints. So for me, I started to use a lot of support systems to work on these movements, but I reduced the range of motion. Now I worked through a range of motion that was comfortable. I had to find comfortable ranges of motion and not force it. So I started to get these same movements, thinking about trying to bend over comfortably instead of forcing it completely so the SI joints are vulnerable. My body learned how to slowly adapt into it using support. And I also individualized stretching. So instead of messing with the low back and the side joints, I found ways to stretch that didn't involve the joints. So I would stretch the hamstrings on their own. In a more supported way. Instead of forcing this stretch, I would more work just starting out in a position that felt good for me. So if I felt a little tension here, I would work this position and then ease off of it. And then over time is when I found, all right, I can lengthen a little bit, but I never went towards that full intense stretch. I wanted to find ways that I could get movement in without aggravating the joints. So find your method, your sweet spot, where starting out feels good for you. Working on different ways to stretch the back of the leg, supported, going into tension and then out. Then once you find that sweet spot, that's when you can start increasing the range of motion here. That's how we gradually work it up with ankylosing spondylitis.